Good afternoon. This is Marshall Davis. Today I'm going to address the question, is this world an illusion? Last month some friends of ours took my wife and I out for a boat ride on Lake Winnipesaukee here in New Hampshire. It was the first and the only time that we were able to get out on the big lake this summer, so we were enjoying it. We were commenting on what a beautiful day it was, and then my friend said, maybe it is all an illusion. I know him to be a Christian who thinks outside the box when it comes to spiritual matters, and it was the perfect opportunity for me to mention these broadcasts on Christian non-duality that I have been recording, but I didn't. It's difficult to have a spiritual conversation over the roar of an outboard motor with the wind rushing by, so I simply made a comment about the impossibility of our physical senses to perceive reality, and I left it at that. But I've been thinking about his comment. It's not too often that Christian people are able to glimpse beyond the veil of the traditional Western worldview and see that there is more. To question the reality that what we can see and touch is a big jump for Christians to make. After all, we are the heirs of the domination of Western science and materialism. So is this world illusion? Without a motorboat or the wind to limit my response, I would say both yes and no. For every statement we make about reality has to be qualified because human language and ideas cannot grasp the truth of this non-dual universe. When the world is seen through, it is known that the world is not what it seems to be, and so the answer to the question is yes. But when that statement is posited as a philosophical or theological truth claim, then the answer is no. If you have read or listened to non-dual spiritual teachers, you have likely heard one half of that answer repeated often, that the world is an illusion, that it's not real, that it's a product of the mind. And if the teacher comes from a Hindu background or has been heavily influenced by Indian philosophy, which is very common when it comes to non-duality, then they'll use the word Maya. The world is an illusion, it's not real. And as I hear people expound that idea, it seems that they mean that the world of our senses is nothing more than a mirage, a hallucination, or a dream. It's all in our minds. It's a product of our imagination. In fact, the word dream is often used in reference to this. We are said to wake up as if from a dream. And that is certainly what it feels like. The problem arises when this statement is made into an idea that is to be believed as part of a system called non-duality. Then the idea is false. The idea is an illusion, and it is an obstacle to waking up. It just puts us deeper into the dream. The little self or the false self, our mind, is not imagining all this. The true self, the universal self, is forming all this that we call the world. Is what the Bible calls creation. As I read the biblical creation story in the opening chapter of Genesis, the universe is a product of the mind of God. God speaks the universe into existence. God says, let there be light, and there is light. God says, let there be earth and stars and sun and living things and so forth. Everything comes into being as a result of words of God, which are nothing more than ideas of God. So you could say that everything is in the mind of God, that this is all the dream of God. And if that is not seen, then it can seem to be a nightmare. Furthermore, our perception of this world is distorted. I am no expert on Indian terms, but I have read that this is the real meaning of the term Maya. That it does not mean illusion so much as it means deception. It's not that this universe does not exist. It's just not what it appears to be. That we are being deceived by our senses. We mistake what we sense for reality, whereas it is really a distorted perception of reality. That is what I was trying to communicate in brief to my friend on the lake. Our senses are very imperfect instruments for perceiving the world. We have only 5 senses, and even those are not very good. Imagine how many other ways there could be to perceive the world. We know, for example, that bats and bees and spiders see the world very differently than we do. We know that there are wavelengths that we cannot see, like infrared and ultraviolet. We can measure those with instruments, but even those instruments are simply extensions and expansions of our sense of sight. How many other senses are possible than just these 5 that we have? There are countless more ways possible to perceive the universe that we cannot even imagine. Furthermore, how many more dimensions are there than the 3 spatial dimensions that we know plus time, which totals 4. String theory says that there are 10 dimensions, or possibly 11. The existence of dark matter and dark energy reveals there is more to the universe than we perceive. Scientists tell us that roughly 68% of the universe is composed of dark energy, and dark matter makes up about 27%. The rest, everything ever observed through our senses and through our instruments, adds up to less than 5% of the universe. So we know nothing about 95% of the universe. If you only see 5% of something, you know that your perception of it is warped. You have likely heard the old story of a group of blind men feeling the different parts of an elephant, and each saying that the animal was different. One says that it's like a snake, another like a fan, or a tree trunk, or a wall, or a rope, or a spear, depending upon which part of the elephant they were touching. And each are convinced that their perception of the elephant is right based on the physical evidence that they have. We can sense with our 5 senses only a small fraction of 5% of the universe. And from that, we draw a conclusion about what the universe is. Of course, we're wrong about it. It's more fantasy than reality. That is Maya. Yet, the fraction of the 5% that we can perceive is real. The physical world is not make-believe. In this regard, the work of cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman is helpful. He has a marvelous book entitled The Case Against Reality: How Evolution Hid the Truth from Our Eyes. He argues that our senses are not meant to accurately perceive reality. Evolution has produced our 5 senses to help us and other organisms survive. He insists that there is a real external world, but we don't see it as it is. He uses the analogy of icons on a computer screen. He says that what we are seeing or hearing or smelling or touching is the icon. It represents something real, just like the icon on a computer screen. Computer screen represents something that's actually in the computer, but the icon is not what it points to. What we perceive is not what really is in the universe. The universe is real, but it's not what we think it is. There is a story about the great 8th century Indian scholar Shankara, who was an authority on Advaita Vedanta. He taught that the world is Maya, normally translated illusion. And once he was teaching on the subject outside, when suddenly a mad elephant came running toward them, destroying everything in its path and injuring people. And the people who were listening to Shankara got up and started running, and seeing the elephant, Shankara also got up and ran with the crowd and escaped to safety. After the elephant was captured and everything settled down, he went back to teaching the people. A man in the group sarcastically asked Shankara, "If the whole world is Maya, then the elephant is Maya. So why were you scared? And why did you run away?" Shankara replied, "My running was also Maya." This world is certainly not what we think it is, but it is something, and we better pay attention to it, or we will be run over by a mad elephant. The fact that the universe has reality in the mind of God means that we are to take it seriously. So, when we hear of children being abused, we can't say, "Oh, that doesn't matter. It's only illusion." And when we read of black youth being killed by police officers who have taken it upon themselves to be judge, jury, and executioner, we can't say it doesn't matter. It's only illusion. It does matter. This world is the creation of the mind of God. That makes it real, even if it's not what we think it is. And that makes it holy and precious, and it makes every life sacred. We are one with the one who has imagined this universe into existence, and as such, we have a responsibility for it and within it. This is where Christian non-duality can be a corrective to the variety that tends to retreat from the world because it says that it doesn't really exist. So is this world illusion? Well, it's not what we think it is. We do not have a clue what it really is. Neither our senses nor our brains are equal to the task of knowing. But whatever the world is, it really is. The world is real because it is an expression of reality. You can't get any more real than that. I call this reality God, which makes this world holy and sacred. It's not to be trivialized or downplayed or ignored. That is why the biblical prophets took what happens in history so seriously, and we should too. In God, this world lives and moves and has its being, as the Apostle Paul said. To know that is truth is to wake up from illusion to reality. That's it for today. Grace and peace to you.